because of time. So we'll just quickly go through the slides. I know I was able to cover some of them. We have done the sum ifs, the count ifs, and the average ifs. So our focus this morning, we just start from the if as an independent function. If itself is a logical function which is used for assignments. Now, but for us as data analysts, we can actually twist it to give us something relevant to our field. So the if function tests a condition and return one value if the condition is true and another value if the condition is false. So if you look at that definition, there are two values we are expected to supply: the true value and the false value. Now, the unique function of this is that two of the values cannot be implemented at the same time. It is only when one does not match the criteria before it can call the other value. So it's a logical function. You look at the syntax here. If logical tests is an argument which is a constant, you cannot avoid it. In fact, it is what you supply here that will be compared with this and also with this that will determine either to output this or to output this. Now, you look at this sample, it doesn't align with what we are going to do, but I just brought it here so that we can have the proper code structure. Now, here, this is where you call the function if. Now, this A1 is referring or representing cell range where you have some value. And what we are saying here is that if value in cell A1 is greater than 10, this is the logical test. This is the logical test. If value, let's assume that we have value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we are comparing our statement here. So this is the condition. This is the first condition. Then this is the second condition. So what you are doing is that you are comparing this condition to this logical test. If this condition is met, then it will display this value. Then if this condition is not met, that's the first value, then it will display this value. Now, to explain more, I said check if the value in cell A, this is just like interpretation of this expression. Check if the value in cell A1 is greater than 10 and return greater than 10 if true, and less than or equals to 10 if false. So in summary, this function can be used to analyze and manipulate data in a cell. So this is where it's applicable to us now as data analysts. So at what point I should involve the if, that is where I want to do some analysis and also manipulate data, making it easier to extract insights and make informed decisions. So from what I've explained so far, let me switch to these data sets that we have been using. Now, let's assume we don't have this rating. So I'm going to create another column entirely just to explain the concept of the if statements. So let me name the column reward. Now, my intention here is that this is my sales inventory. And at the end of the year, I want to reward certain customers with some award. I want to give them some item. And I don't want to just give them those items randomly. So I want to program a condition that will determine what goes to a customer based on a particular criteria. So the criteria I'm going to use for awarding this item could be that if the quantity of item purchased is greater than certain number, then such a customer should be awarded car. And then so I'm going to be taking it interval. So I'll look at the highest sales here or the highest quantity here. So like I'm having here now, the highest quantity is 10. So I can decide to group the award or the condition for awarding this item. So I can start from 10. So if I'm starting from 10, I can say if a customer purchase quantity is greater than 7. So which means that capture customers that purchase quantity above 7. So which means 8 will be captured there, and then 9 will be captured, and then 10 will be captured. So that is the range since you started from greater than 7. 7 will not be included. Now, I can decide as an analyst to also include that 7. Then if I want to include the 7, then my conditional operator will change. So instead of using just one operator, so I will be using 2 operators, which is actually allowed. So the 2 operators I am going to be using will be if equals to 7, or let's say if greater than 7 and also equals to 7. So that is how you can capture that 7. But if you just say greater than 7, it means 7 will be accepted. So what I want to quickly do, I want to list out the gifts items that I want to give. So let's say gifts item, just to guide me. So I have car here, then I have laptop. I just want to give out 3 items, and then I have a, let's say, generator. So these are the items I want to give out. Then I'm going to allocate this item using the if condition or statement. So this is where, and the condition for awarding this is going to be based on the quantity. Like we said, you can choose your condition. It can be the total purchase. It can be the gross income. So whatever condition you want to use, you determine it. But in this case, I want to use quantity. So if I'm using quantity, so my condition here, I will activate my function. Remember that you have to start by entering equal sign, which is the standard rule for working with a formula in a cell. So I will activate the if function, if. So once you activate it, you can manually press a shift and 9 to complete it, or you just double click on it to complete it. So from this, you can see that we have the function syntax activated, just like I explained in my slide. So what is going to be my logical test? So my logical test here will be the selection of the quantity, which is the criteria for assigning this item. So let's get that right. The logical test is the selection or referencing the argument for assigning the item. Now, Excel is very sensitive. You don't need to say you want to highlight everything like this. That is why in my slide, you see that I just capture A1. So that A1 that I capture actually represents multiple range, not just one. So what we are going to do, you don't need to waste your time highlighting everything. Excel knows what to do. Just select the first one. So selecting the first one like this, that represents the whole of the cells under this feature from where you selected. Now, so this H2 represents the cell range where I have the value that will determine or that will be compared with the conditions or the criteria I am going to define. Now, after you have captured the range, then follow by the operator. Operator have special meaning to us in programming. Operators have expression. It's just like the way we know symbols in typing in Microsoft Word, where you put open bracket, which represents open bracket if you are to spell it in full. So they represent expression. So your operator here should represent what you are doing. Now remember, we are saying that if a value in this quantity range, which we have just referenced, is greater than 7 assign car. So we are using greater than. So instead of us typing greater than in Word, we will look for an operator that represents that greater than, which is this. So you should be able to locate it in your keyboard. You hold down the shift button, then you locate the greater than sign symbol. So now greater than this. Now, but I am going to add something just to make it more precise. So from experience, I discovered that if you just use the if, you may not have some level of accuracy expected. So as a result of that, I am going to make it more precise. And to do that, I'm going to be adding at. You know, the function did not come with the at. So I am the one adding what? At. And the reason is that I want my answer to be precise. So if, so this at is actually talking about location. And the location is what you have referenced here, which is the what? This. So, and the if is a probability statement. You are not sure of what is going to be there. So you are saying that in case it is this. So at if this, I remember I said I'm using to operator greater than or equals to. Because if I do greater than only, it means that 7 will not be captured in this particular range I'm specifying. So at if value in H2 range, that's quantity, is greater than 7, is qualified for the assignment. If it is also equals to 7, it is also qualified for the assignment. That is what we are saying. So two conditions are the same time. Now, once you have entered your equal sign, then you bring in the value. So the value will be 7. And then the whole of this is the logical test. So we just completed logical test now. Now remember when I showed us the syntax, I pointed out 3 syntax. One is the logical test. The second one is the value if true. And the third one is the value if false. So what we have just defined now is the logical test. Now, at the end of the logical test, you can see it here. You are expected to introduce a comma to show that I have ended that section. So once you have introduced your comma, the next thing we want to supply now is the value if true. And the value if true is already captured somewhere. Is already captured somewhere. I want to show us two ways you can do it. Let me see if I can move this out. No, that is not going to be possible. I'm coming, I'll take it again. I just want us to. So let me move this. I don't want it to interrupt what we are doing. Okay. So at if, open bracket, your logical test, you select the first cell, and then greater than, and then equals to. Then like I was saying, greater than or equals to 7, then comma. Now, my logical test here, my value if true is already captured in a variable in a cell, which means that the value you are about to reference is already stored in a particular cell. So in that case, you just click on that cell. So with this, you have automatically collected the value from that cell. Then you now put your comma. So that is one method.
Excuse me, please. Which
Hello, sir.
hello?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Please, which cell did you write on the page 25?
So this is not 25. This is Z5.
Which cell is that one?
Look at it here now. Are you not seeing my screen? Look at it here. Look at it here. Look at my pointer. Can you see it now?
Which heading?
Look at where I click. Car. Can you see my pointer? If you can see my pointer, you should know what I'm talking about.
I'm not seeing your pointer yet. Is
Miss
it to
Glory,
the
can you see
extreme
my
right or
pointer, please?
left? Is it to the extreme right or left?
Right. Miss Glory, can you see my
Yes,
pointer? Let me know if.
I've seen it now.
Good.
Yes, I can see it is on the Z column.
Good. So what I'm doing here now is that I am referencing a value, my true value from a cell. Now, what we have done here now, you have just stated the true value. Then you add a comma, then you start with at if again. At if, you open the bracket again. So this is just like collection of if statement because your criteria are multiple. And even it's just one criteria now, then I will just end it there. But the reason why I have to go this way, the first if is to state this criteria. But there are 3 items. How will Excel know which of them meets the criteria, which is what? When a value under quantity is greater than 7. So I have to supply criteria that covers all this. Then it is now left for Excel to factor out, to compare each of them to the value here based on my logical test and end up displaying one of these options. So once you have done this, you reference the same cell again, H2, then greater than or equals to, then this time around, instead of 7, remember I am grouping them into 3, greater than 7, that is 7, 8, 9, 10, will be assigned car. Then I will not come down and take another 3. So I will not take from 5 now. So 5, 6, 7. Sorry, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. They are the set of quantity that I want to assign laptop to now. So I will now put that 5 here. You can see that I'm no longer working with 7. So this 5 that I inserted here means it will capture quantity equals to 5, and then 6. But it will not capture 7 because you have already specified 7 in the previous statement. So it's just 2 here based on the value range that I have in my quantity. So you can choose. So actually a company will give you this standard. They will tell you, okay, this is our own criteria for rewarding our customers. So it's not left for you to know how to group the way I'm grouping now. Then after that, I'll put a comma. So what I've added my comma, I will call the item. I will reference it from the laptop cell, just like I did for car. Then comma to show that I have ended that statement. So the next thing I'm going to do is to capture the last one, which is the generator. Now, to capture the last one, there is a way Excel will actually factor it out by itself, which means that if it is not any of these two that you have captured, then you are referring to what? Generator, which means that by the time it takes this formula, this statement, and compare it here, maybe there's a value here like 3, like 2, which will definitely not meet any of these two criteria that we have specified. Excel automatically know that they are the set of people you want to assign what? Generator to. That is one way you can program it. Another way is that you want to program that there are some that will not qualify at all. So it's not all the customer that you want to award this to. So if that should be the case, then you come again with your at if again, at if, then open the bracket, then reference the cell again, then bring in your operator, then equals to, then I will take, since I've done 5 to 7, so I will take 4. So we don't want to give anybody with 2 as quantity. So I just want to give 4. So let's say what? 4. So this one is just 1 because after 4 is 5, and 5 has already been allocated to the previous statement. So it's just 1. Now, after the last one like this, comma, remember after the comma, you reference the cell that carries the value. Then every other person will not be qualified. So how will Excel write in front of that person not qualified? You have to bring it. You have to supply that argument. So you put a comma, then you can see that there is no place where I have written not qualified, just like the way I have computed all this that I was just referencing their cell. So because it's not captured anywhere, it has not been stored in any variable. So I have to introduce it with the quotation, which I showed you the other time. So this time around, I have to bring in this because it's not written anywhere. So I will say what? Not qualify. Not qualify. So once I have ended it like this, you can see that the very last one I did not do at if. Please always take note of that. The very last one is not expected to carry that at if. The reason is that Excel knows that once it compares all these well-stated conditions and it did not meet that criteria, then the one that does not carry that at if is the one that should be given to those other ones. That is the meaning. That's why the last one you must not do at if again. Now, once you have done this, the next thing is to close the bracket. But before we close the bracket, I want to draw our attention to something here. From here to this place, they are all true values. Remember I said the syntax. So thank God it's still showing here. Logical test, value if true, value if false. Now what you did here now is that all the you define the value if true first. So this is true value, this is another true value, this is another true value. Now this is where you are now supplying the false value. So this not qualified is the false value. So once you have ensured that, you now close the brackets. We're just opening the bracket. Now you close the bracket with the same numbers of brackets you open. So the best place to count the number of brackets you open is on your formula bar, because at times it can be long based on the number of criteria that you may not be seeing everything. So the best thing is that you check here. Now this is one bracket, 1. This is the second one. This is the third one. I did not open bracket for the last one, so it shouldn't be counted. So I'll start closing the bracket by holding down the shift button I'm pressing 0. 1, just take note, you can see this closing them. 2, then 3. Then you press enter. Then you see that what? This is 7 and is assigned what? Car. So if I click here and double tap here, let's see what happened. We have some that are 0. So let's see how we will rectify that. But let's see if we have not qualified. Let's trace it. 2, not qualified, is correct here. Then 3, not qualified, is correct here. Then why are this one having 0? Let's check the one that generated 0. That is 6. Now, why you could have this could be 2 reasons. It's either the level of your Excel sensitivity, that is the AI, or the way we reference this. So I'll quickly do the other way. When you have it like this, you change, you use the other method. In some Excel version, it will just work for you. But in case it did not work, it's just a minute. All right. Now, in case you apply it like this and it does not give you the expected results, then you fall back to this method I want to use now. One of them must give us the accurate results. So instead of referencing the cell now, see what I'm going to do. So this is an opportunity for you to go through it again. So at if, I'll select the range greater than or equals to 7. Then comma. Now, I'm no longer referencing them from the cell again, so I will now be supplying them manually. Quotation, then type car, then the same thing, then comma, then at, if, open the bracket, select the same range, greater than, equals to. What I used the other time was 5, comma, assign laptop. So you can see this method, I am manually submitting my criteria value, not referencing them from any cell. Then at if, open bracket, my logical test, the same thing is greater than, equals to, I think I used 4 the other time, 4, comma, assign generator. Then I'll just put comma, then the last one, which is what? Not qualified. Then close the brackets with the same number of brackets you open. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I have the same car. So let me autofill. So you can see it now. So that is what experience will tell you. If I've not tried both of them now, then I will just be killing myself over there. So now, once you use the cell reference method and you did not get the expected result, then you supply those variables manually. So let's check now whether our cell is actually accurate with our plans. 7, car. 5, laptop. 7, car. So you can see that the cell is very correct with everything. So with this, there will not be any partiality. Nobody will feel cheated because you actually rewarded them based on their performance. So any question?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, sir.
When we're referencing at if, we now select the cell 7. And then we are now still saying, we are now putting in front of it again, greater than or equals to 7. The cell itself is already, I was thinking that the sign greater than will come before the cell. Because we are saying if it's greater than 7, then we selected 7, because the first cell you reference is actually 7. And it's the first cell on the quantity bar, on the quantity column. And then you're now writing in front of that 7 again, greater than 7, greater than or equal to 7. So I'm just wondering please clarify, is that very logical enough?
Yes, yes, yes. Now, what you are saying now. So what you are saying here is you are saying that we were selecting this even when we were programming for greater than 7 and other criteria, right? If I may get you right.
Greater than symbol will come before the cell, because you are saying greater than or equal to 7. And we've already selected 7 before putting greater than or equal to in the front and putting another 7 again.
No. Okay, now I understand you. This particular 7, wait, let me try and impute it here so that I can really understand what you are saying. Now, let's say I want to do it here. You know, I have already selected this, right?
Yes, and this one is selected as 7.
The 7. Then I now did the greater than like this, right?
Yeah, it's like I say 7 greater than or equal to 7.
So this is where the issue is, right?
I'm having issue with this H2 now, because you're already saying 7. Mathematically, you're saying 7 greater than or equal to 7.
Okay, good. Now, let me ask Miss Glory. Miss Glory should be able to explain this. Miss Glory, can you answer him? Let me know if you can before I answer him. Can you answer him?
Sorry, what's this question? Let me see if I can answer. Sorry, I was a little sure. What's the question?
Mr. Jolly, please come again. Sorry.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is this.
Okay.
We are looking at the if function.
Yes.
And then we are trying to, in the bracket, you are trying to give instruction to the function to instruct it to tell it what we want to achieve. Now we say at if bracket open cell 1, which is cell H2, and that cell H2 is 7. It's just like, okay, cell H2, what the figure in cell H2 is already 7. You're not saying 7 greater than or equal to 7. I was thinking, since we want to get greater than or equal to 7, we could have just said at if, then greater than or equal to, then we now reference the cell.
Okay.
So can you answer him now?
Okay. I feel the 7 is necessary to be included there, because that's the criteria. And 7 does to my understanding, it does not just appear in that H2. If you go down, you also see 7.
Good.
In other cells, you can see 7 in maybe H. I'm not saying from this side now. H7. You can see 7 at H. I don't know if I'm even making sense at all.
Okay,
but
now
then that's the criteria.
you are actually making a point. Now, Mr. Jolly, now this is it here. Before I started, I said, ordinarily, if we don't understand a cell sensitivity, this is what you will have done as a basic Excel user. You will have highlighted everything here down. That should have been your logical test before you bring in the greater than and equals to before say 7. You know the reason? Because here, where you saw that H2 the other time, it's not actually representing 7. That H2 is representing the range where you have the values that you are comparing with the true value and the false value. I don't know if it's clear now.
So what that means is that at every time we are doing this, we should just select the first cell.
Good, which have saved you from highlighting everything, because the idea is that if this record is up to 1 million,
That means each time you are programming this, you have to be coming to select everything from cell H2 to cell maybe 1 million. So instead of doing that, we understood that Excel we read our mind. Once we put just H2, with this function we are applying, Excel knows that you are referring to what? This whole range. So you shouldn't be seeing that H2 as 7. You should be seeing that H2 as the column where you have the logical tests that you are comparing with the true and the false value.
Okay, it's clear to me, but I want to find out because previously we used to use Control Shift and arrow to select everything.
Yes.
Are we saying that is this applicable only in this function?
Yes.
Or can it be used in other functions too?
Okay, you mean if you want to select everything, right? To make it faster.
Before now, we normally use Control Shift,
Yes.
arrow down to
Yes.
select
All.
we
Select
1 minute to go
the values. Yes.
But now we are referencing only the first cell.
Yes.
Are we saying that it's applicable only in this if function or in all other functions?
And not other functions, just here for now. Let me not conclude on that. For when you are working with this, you actually have the option. You can decide to select everything. You will still get the same result.
I know, I understand.
But you just want to reduce the length of your code because it will now be increasing for each one. Now you are now selecting the range. All right. So if that is understood, so it means that brings us to the end of that function, which is the logical tests. So if there's
Please,
no
sorry, I want to ask a question.
Okay, all right.
You're saying we must always add for the if function, must always use at if.
I did not say must. I said from experience.
It's advisable.
Yes, because at times you can try it maybe during your assignment. Try it without putting the at. You will see that you may not get just like what we did now. When we were referencing the cell, you notice that we couldn't get a cell AI was not that smart to read all our intentions until we have to manually impute the variables before it could get it. So all these are options that are available depending on the version you are using, because each of Excel version have different level of AI. For example, now if you are using Excel 2013 for what I'm doing now, you don't expect the same level of AI with Excel 2016 or Excel 23. So depending on the version you are using, that's why you have this option. So if you try one and Excel is not getting it as expected, then you switch to the other one. So it's not as if it's a final conclusion that if you don't put the art, you might not put the art in the version you are using. It might still work. But in case you did not put it and you did not get the result, then add what? The art. It will make it more precise. Is that clear now? Is that the only question you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Jolly, you say you have another question.
Yes, we're saying if true and if false. Why are we now saying that not qualified is the false? What makes it false? I've already said if it's below this, we're not giving it. So why is it false?
Now,
it's not false.
If you did not supply this, if I did not supply this very one, let me show you what happened. If you did not supply that not qualified, it will leave this particular space empty. So we can just try it and rerun the code again. Let me delete it. So it will automatically assign a default value, which is false. Now, let me autofill again. You see it now. But I don't want that false to be there, because that false is a default value where you as a user fail to specify it. Excel on its own will assign what? False. But you don't want to see that false. Maybe you want to see another word, whatever it is you want to program. That is the essence of me showing you that particular one. Is that clear?
Okay, it's clear.
Okay. Is that all the questions?
Please, to autofill, you just drag down, right? The arrow, the plus.
I just double click on it. I don't need to drag down because the record might be much. Just double click on it like this. Just double click. So if I update it now, Control Z now, I just did Control Z to return the not qualify.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so I hope
So
we are.
sorry to take you back again. I knew I skipped a class that I did not complete the last class and I've not gone through it. So at what point in time, like, should we know which function to use? Okay, the if, the I understand for count if, I understand for sum if. Do we have any specific, like when you see a problem, you see a data sheet, how would you know which to use and all? Is it based on the statement, or I don't know if I'm asking?
If you are asking, or the one we did, the one we attached to the aggregate function. Remember that this if, we have been using it, but in conjunction with other aggregate function, like sum,
Yes,
count,
yes.
average if. But now we are taking it on its own. That is the difference between the one of today and the one we have been using since. So those ones have been borrowing the if as a conditional statement because we are not summarizing all. Now, that question you are asking, I will advise you go and watch the video because I explain different terms or different criteria for applying the sum ifs, the count ifs, and the average ifs so that it doesn't drag us back.
Okay, sir.
It's very clear. You know, I sent you a message that make sure that you watch that video, particularly to the end where I show them how to use the AI to generate analysis question for the assignment. Just take your time to go through the video, please. Then if you did not understand it, the next class, you bring the question, I will attend to it.
Okay.
All right, all right. So I was saying that, so let me assume that we now know how to use the logical function. Now, I will just cite some other scenarios where you can use it, but I'm not going to apply it. So it's not left for you to go and figure it out. Now, let's assume that in this case now, you have a data set like sales inventory, and you want to find a way of identifying customers that are overdue for their payments and the ones that will be due soon and the ones that are not due for their payments. You can use this function. So what you will just do is to identify the column for your logical test and then probably assign if a customer is owing, then there will be a column where you have maybe the balance column where you have recorded all the balances. Then from there, you will now use that column value to say that if a value is greater than this, then writes the customer is due for payment. Now, there is a way you can program it whereby as you are at, maybe there is a total, there is a particular column where you are totaling the customer's total of transaction. So instead of using that other column, you can use that total column so that as the customer continue to patronize you, so at any given point in time, in as much you are entering his information, that column or cell will be updating the total. So it is that total cell that you now reference that if a value here is greater than this, then say the customer is due for payment. Now, when the person now pays some amount, definitely you must have programmed it in a way that when you receive the payment from the person, if it's not paying all, it will deduct from the old account statement or the old balance. Then once the value reduce, then that statement will also change that the customer is not due. So what I'm trying to say is that in your real business environment where you are working in an organization, this application of the if function will vary depending on the task and the type of data you are working with. It may not be like this that I use now. So whichever way it's changing, you are expected to know how to find your way around it. So it's very important that we explore other options. So we should look at the data and say, okay, as your assignment to look at this data now and bring out another scenario where you can use the if function. You can base it on this payment. Maybe you can say that, okay, if a value that is here is e-wallet, because at the end of the day, you can do another analysis. Let me show you. Let me just do that so that you know that, I said it the other time that most time we have the main question. Then after we have provided result or answer to the main question, another question will arise. So it's the nature of the job. Your boss can tell you that I want this. After you have analyzed or presented that result that he or she might be saying will now inform him of another thing he wants you to do. So always bear it in mind that at the end of your analysis, where you answer the main question, there will be other questions that will arise. For example, now, after we have answered this, supposing we are asked to analyze how many staffs, how many customers here collected car. The company want to know at the end of the day so that they will know, okay, which of the item was given out most, followed by which one out of the 3 items that we are given. Miss Glory, you want to say something?
No, sorry,
Okay.
no.
When you mute your good. So now it will now bring in the count ifs that we used the other time, because for me to answer that question, the question here is that now you have presented, you have awarded car to some people, you have awarded laptop to some people. Now we want to know how many of these customers received car, and how many of them received laptop, and how many of them received what, and how many of them did not even receive anything. These are additional analysis that will arise just because you have presented it. Now, if I may just answer that one, the first question that says, provide analysis that compare the total numbers of the item received by what? The customer category. So what I'm going to do here now, I will just bring in the count if. So Ms. Glory, this is part of what we did the other time, count ifs. Now, why did I use count if? I will first of all check whether it's actually a question that I can answer with just count if without S. Because the count ifs is for multiple criteria. So how many criteria are in that question? The question says, how many customers received car? That is, you have to trace each of the cell where you have car here now, trace it and count it. Then go to another cell where you have car, then trace it, and then give us the what? The total. It's just one criteria. So since it's just one criteria, I may not even use the one of S. I can use what? Just count if. But I told us in that class that you can actually do everything you did with the count if with the count ifs. Only that you stop at defining just one criteria. So what I'm going to do here is my criteria range is going to be what? This. So I'll select everything here, just like what Mr. Jolly was asking, whether in this case now, if I select just one, just like I selected that arrow 2, will Excel also assume all? Here you have to call everything like this, then comma. That is my criteria range. Then my criteria is car. So I'm counting based on car. So I'll select the first car. If you select the second car, it will exclude this. It will not count this. So for it to count all, I'll select the first one, and that is all. I'll press enter. So I have what? 398 persons that receive what? Car. So this is for car. So what I will do is just to label it here. So let me just label it because at the end of the day, I will identify my trend. Which one have the highest? That is another analysis I'm going to present. So let me do the same thing for count, ifs. So I'll select the same range. Then pick laptop, the first laptop. So I have what? 200. So I'll write laptop. So the same thing. So you can see that you can actually apply all these functions based on the task given to you. The criteria, I'll select the same thing, range. I'll look for the first generator. Generator. They're not qualified. Want to know how many of them were not given anything. Count ifs. The same range. Then select the first not qualified. Now, I want to call this value here. I don't want to manually type because it's long. So look at this logic. I will just put equals to, and then select it and press enter. Automatically, I have saved myself from typing it. So you can see at the end of the day now, you do your trend analysis. You can highlight this now. Remember, I told you that you can use what? Graph. Just go to charts. And then why I want to use graph is to identify my trend. Which one have the highest? That is the essence of that. But if I don't need that, I will just remove it. So with this, I have provided additional analysis. So if I'm to write my executive report, remember I told us that your stakeholder, your manager, your CEO have no business in seeing your Excel. At the end of the day, you go to PowerPoint and write your observation for this if analysis. That at the end of your assignment or assigning the gift item, this is the information you came out with. You realize that so number like 398 customer received cars, 200 customer received laptop, 109 customer receives generator, 293 customer did not receive anything. So you can see how I derive this analysis from this. So if I have not performed this analysis, this question wouldn't have arisen. So that is just the idea I'm trying to tell us, that as data analysts in your office, don't be surprised when your boss will come out and tell you, I want this. After you have provided that, that will not open his eyes to ask you for more analysis. So I believe it is clear before we shift to the next function for today.
Just a little question, please.
Okay, sir.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you close the bracket when we put this count if? Because the other one we had to close the 3 brackets.
Okay, good observation. Now you don't need to close the brackets. Excel will close it, but for the other one, you have to close them, because the reason why we close those brackets, because we were nesting if inside if, like when we did at if greater than, well, after assigning laptop, we put a comma, we did another at if again. So which means that you are joining 2 or more if. So you have to close them. But addition is just one if statement. You don't need to close it. Excel will close it for you. Did you understand it, sir?
Yes, it's very clear. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Glory, well, are we good to go? I'm leaving this if now. I'm going to another function now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please, I would advise us to practice. So Remember that if you did not meet our target, no certificate. Please make sure you are practicing. It's only Mr. Jolly that have submitted one assignment. Miss Gloria have not submitted anyone, and she promised. Let me wait till the next class. I'm waiting. Okay, so going back to our slides, we are through with that. Now we are focusing on, we have done this in our last class. I think Mr. Jolly can verify that. We have done this. ChatGPT. We learned how to use it to draft our analysis question, which I advise every one of us to learn to use. Everything we are doing in tech today, one way or the other, we are leveraging on AI. But when you come out and you are showing the novice, they will not know that everything is not actually coming from your brain. So it's very important that we adopt this as we go on. Now, I think I've also explained this. So all these are about the process that we went through to apply the ChatGPT. So this is where we are now. I think this is the last topic under this section, building data analysis automated system / dynamic dashboard with Excel lookup function. Now here we are actually getting more advanced now. We are graduating from manual things to automated aspects of Excel. After this now, we have just one main function before we can close Excel chapter and go to Python. After this, we'll be looking at a pivot table, which is one of the most powerful tools in Excel for data analysis. So I arrange them in a way that we end with the more AI function. So here we are going to learn how to build automated system. That is the beauty of data analysis. Had it been there is no dashboard, people wouldn't have been impressed in this field. One of the most exciting aspects of data analysis, which you must know, is the ability to build dashboard. Without dashboard, sometimes it is very difficult to answer multiple questions. So, for the set of functions we are focusing on here, they are called lookup function. We are going to talk about VLOOKUP, which means vertical lookup. We are also going to talk about HLOOKUP, which means horizontal lookup. And then finally, XLOOKUP, which is an extension of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. So let's start with the VLOOKUP. But before we look at the VLOOKUP, let's look at what is a dashboard and what makes a dashboard to be automated. A dashboard in data analytics, it is an interface developed by a data analyst to communicate multiple findings instead of duplicating or repeating models. I repeat, a dashboard is a single interface developed or to be developed by a data analyst to communicate multiple findings to avoid duplicating models. Now, when I use the word model here, we are talking about the container for presenting your findings.
Hello, so that I want to take that definition, please. I don't think you have it in your slide.
No. That is why I'm repeating it. Can I take it again?
Yes, sir.
I said a dashboard is an interface developed or to be developed by a data analyst to communicate multiple findings. To communicate multiple findings to avoid repeating or duplicating models. To avoid repeating or duplicating model. To avoid duplicating or repeating model. And I said model in data analysis, they are containers used for presenting your findings. So each time I use the word model, that is what I am actually talking about, container. How do you present your findings? And remember, I mentioned two major models for presenting findings, which we refer to as visualization model. We have the tabular model, we have the graphical model. So these two are system or containers for presenting your findings. And the strength of one over the other, which is the graphical model over the tabular model, is that when you present your findings with a graphical model, you can easily identify your trend, your patterns, and your outliers compared to when you are using a tabular model. Okay, so just to clarify that. So now we know what is called dashboard. Okay,
You
sir.
took a lot of this, the last thing I want to take it down.
Which one?
So the strength of using graphical model is what?
Okay, I said the advantage of using graphical model is to easily identify trend, patterns, and outliers.
Is it outliers?
Yes, outliers. Yes, outliers.
Flyers, F-I-F-L-I.
No. Okay, let me type it somewhere. Let me see if I can type it here. Outliers. This is what I mean by outlier. That's the difference between the most performing entity and the least. So when you differentiate, that is just like you are the deviation from the trend from other ones that are underperformed. It's called the outlier. Is that clear now?
I'm writing down.
Okay. Miss Glory, hope you are also taking down some of this. Anyway, if you go through the video, you will also write them down.
So let me take what you said. So that, let me be sure I got it. You
Which
said
one?
graphical, the last one, graphical model is more advantageous because it helps us to identify the trend, patterns, and outliers. And outliers is the difference between the most performing entity and the performing one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Now, that is just to make us understand the concept around dashboard. Now, I'm going to use, okay, so let me just explain the function so that once I switch from here, we will not be coming here as usual. Please, if you are not talking, please help us to be unmuted because it's producing a kind of, okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so now how are we going to build the dashboard? Now, another way you can see dashboard is that you are using one container to answer different questions or to present multiple findings, of which you are supposed to create like 10 different models just because you want to analyze 10 questions. You want to answer 10 analysis questions. So in data analysis, you can just create a dashboard. Then that dashboard will be shuffling the findings. So at some point, you can display one particular question answer. Then once you have taken note of that, you display the second one. Once you have taken note of that, you display the third one, and so on, instead of you creating different model just because you want to answer those 10 questions. That is what I mean by what? Using a single interface to answer multiple or to present multiple findings. Now, for us to achieve this dashboard, we need two different functions. We need what we call data validation, which is not here, but it's not the main one. That is the reason why I did not capture it. It's actually optional. Now, the data validation will help us to restrict a cell from receiving all kind of value. So just like we are saying that this cell, this is only what must be imputed here. Anything outside this type of value should not be accepted. Now, the VLOOKUP function searches for a value in the first column of a table and return a value in the same row from another column. So let's start with recognizing the data structure for supporting this function. You cannot implement this function until your data is vertically structured. That is the criteria. That is called vertical lookup. So the criteria is that before you involve VLOOKUP, find out the structure of your data. Is it vertically arranged or horizontal? If it is horizontal, then you need to transpose. You need to switch from the horizontal structure to vertical structure. Now, let me take us to the data I intend to use for this section. So this is the payroll data set. So I ask myself, is this data vertically structured? Yes, because values are entered what? Vertically. And apart from that, the headings, look at them here. This is serial number, vertical. Employee name, vertical. So addibbing this serial number, these headers, they are listed like this here, vertically. That is, you trace serial number here, then you trace employee here, then you trace employee ID here. That is a horizontal structured data. So that's the first thing you need to find out before applying this, whether your data is vertically arranged. Now, once we have confirmed that, let's quickly talk about the syntax before we go for the full application. So what I'm doing here is to give us a background so that it will be easier for us to understand there. Syntax, this is the name of the function, VLOOKUP. Now, there are arguments, a lot of them you must supply for you to fully execute this function. The first one is the lookup function. Sorry, the lookup value, So what is lookup value? That is what I've defined here. The value to search for. The value to search for is your lookup value. So this function must look up to a particular value in your data set. So from our dashboard, we are going to be looking up to a particular cell. And whatever we have in that cell is what the function will take and travel to where you have your record and use it to fetch all the information that are connected to that lookup value. Don't worry, you understand all this grammar by the time we start applying it. What is your table array? Like I have defined here, the range of cells to search for. Now we are saying that we are going to look up to a criteria here. Once you find a criteria here, then take the criteria to a data set. So your data set is your table array. And then a way of you defining the boundary where this function can search for is the table array. Between which column to which column I'm allowed to search for a value is what you mean by what? Table array. Now, column index number. Column index number is you narrowing the searching to a particular column, calculating the distance from the lookup value. So you are telling a cell that from the lookup value, where you have defined the whole range, instead of the function busy looking for or going through each of the column within the table array, then you are trying to assist the function that don't bother looking around all the selected boundary. Just narrow your search to a particular column that is calculated from the lookup value. Look at my definition here. The column number containing the value to return the result you are expecting. That is the where is it going to be called from? That is the what? The column index number. Then, of course, I told us before that once you have an argument stated in a square bracket in a function, it means that what? It is optional. It is optional in one sense, and in another sense, it means it's expressing what you are looking for, what you are doing, which is what range lookup. That is what you are searching for, a value within a defined word range. But I explained here that optional set to what? False or exact match. So at the end of this, we are expected to specify, because this is still linked to the if function. This is a conditional function. So a condition, a criteria must be met. And if is a conditional function, there must be true value and false value, just like the if statement that we just concluded now. So that is what it says. So if it is, you have 0 for exact match, then 1 for false value. But like I said, just make sure that you are logically understanding this. By the time I have implemented it, everything will be clear to you. Now that we understand the concepts of VLOOKUP and the parameter or the argument involved, in summary, don't forget that if we want to apply this function, this is one argument that will be required. This is another argument that will be required. And then this is another one. And then the false value, which is the last one, which is the one the range lookup is specifying. Now, let's go to our data now. A dashboard is a system, and that system is developed for you. It's just like an aid. You build it to assist you to do something that you will have been doing multiple times. So you must have an idea of the system you want to build. You can approach supermarkets. You can approach all these boutiques or any of these organizations and present to them that you have built a system that can help them to analyze this, to analyze that, and to analyze that as a way of marketing yourself. So if you are that sound, you may not need to look for all these full-time jobs. You can build system which now stand as solution to organization. So you can look at a company and study their activities and know the challenges they are facing, and then develop a system that can act as a solution to them, and then walk up to them and market that system as a product. And then once they buy it, one-time purchase, that is what they will buy it from you, and then they will continue to use it for lifetime. So you will just sell it. Then you go to another company and look at their nature of their activities or their events. You say, okay, as a data engineer, because this aspect now is more of the engineering. As a data engineer or a data analyst, I have observed your business and I discovered that you might be having the challenge or that challenge. As a result of that, I have been able to build a system, which is now your dashboard, that you as a layman, all you need to do is to select a product name. Once you select the product name, it will automatically analyze the quantity purchased by the customer, the actual cost, the VAT, and other information about that word product or customer. The person will say, wow, just me selecting the customer name, I will find out everything about the person transaction. Okay, let's see how it works. So you just show them the demo. So once they approve it, then you will now impute their real customer name instead of the one you just, imputed. Now, that is on one sense. Now, but looking at the data I have here, I want to develop a system because the data set determine the system you can develop with these functions we want to look at. This is a payroll data set. This is salary payroll. This is a data set where they have tracked all the employees' details regarding to their salary payment. And like I've walked us through it before, this is the serial number, this is the employee's name, and then this is the employee's what? ID. This is where they collected the respective states they are from, the gender, the departments they are working, the status, whether married or what, single, the grade, manager, officer, and the rest of them, then the hire date, the basic salary, and then if we go on, and then we have the basic salary, we have the wardrobe allowance, we have the medical allowance, we have gross benefits, we have annual salary tax, and then finally, I know we have net salary. Now, what system can I build for them? So now, for example, if the cashier wants to pay the workers, so by the time, let's assume Vero approaches me as the cashier, and I ask Vero, and I want to know how much Vero is entitled to earn as he's earning. So instead of me manually coming to the data set and begin to trace Vero, okay, Vero basic salary is 200,000, and Vero is any additional income as wardrobe allowance, medical allowance, and so on. So you can see what I'm trying to do now. I'll pick my calculator, I begin to punch. Okay, this just trying to know how much Vero is entitled to collect. I'm doing this, I will add this, add this, add this, add that. Then before I will now confirm Vero net salary. Instead of that, I will develop a system that once the cashier will just ask you, what is your name? Once you call your name, the cashier will enter that name in a particular cell. Once he enters that name in a cell, it will automatically fetch all your details from this data set for me. I don't have to come here and start tracing your record one after the other. So I'm saying this so that you understand the system I want to build, because every system is a solution. So you must start by identifying the problem, the challenge. Then you now develop a system that can attend to that challenge. That is the reason why I'm narrating all this. Now I have already established the problem. Now I want to provide the system. So I will start by adding a new sheet by clicking here. So I've just added a new sheet. Name that sheet. Name that sheet. Let's say salary. Can give it any name. Salary pay slip analysis dashboard.
I'm not seeing what you're typing.
It's Gloria. Can you see what I'm typing? At the bottom here, at the bottom.
Yes, sir. Salary payslip analysis.
It's, Jolly, please. The bottom. Can you see it now? I want to be sure that you are seeing before I proceed, Mr. Jolly. Can you see it now?
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay, all right, sir. So now, I just abbreviated because I've exceeded the number of the length. Now, what I intend to do here is that this is where the system will be developed. So this system will be traveling to this data to be fetching the record for me. I don't have to come here. So now, the next thing I'm going to do, every sheet you are using must have a description of what that sheet is used for. So I've just described it here, but that is not enough. I'll go to Insert, like I've showed us before, then go to Tests, then select Word Art, then you can still label it as what? let me just say analysis. That once somebody gets here, we know what this sheet is designed for. Analysis dashboard. So let me format it a little. Select the text, part of what I've showed us before. Then, okay, let me still maintain. Okay, let me use this color. Go to your home, bold it. Your dashboard must look very attractive. That's why you have to design it. Then the whole of this part where I have the header, I want to give it black background so that it will bring out the text. So I highlighted those cells. Then go to home, then click on this fill color, then select black. So just to silence all the grid line from that section. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, because this is my dashboard, I'll create a panel here, Tell us what I want to do with the panel shortly. So I'll fill the whole of this with black. I'm trying to have a good looking dashboard. Now, I will go to my internet. Just make sure you are following. We actually stated 7, so just bear with me. We need to cover this topic. If you take it halfway, you will not understand it. So I ought to have downloaded the icon, but I just want you to see everything. That is why I'm doing this. So there are some analysis icon that you should know. So when you are building dashboards, you know how to sort them out. So I need home icon. I need this icon. So you right click on it, select save image. So if you are working in an office, create a folder where you are probably storing all these icons. So whenever you need them, you can always call them from the folder. So let me just name this folder analysis icon. So let me go into the folder and name this as home because I'm going back to get others. So I also need a background at the end of the day that will format the whole of the section width if I want. So I will select analysis. I'll just type analysis. Analysis. Not icon. Then go to image. So there are some pictures that we can easily use to present, to communicate our idea. So I'll take this picture, right click also, save it. Go to the desktop, navigate to the folder, then I'll save it as pick 1. Let me get one more before I continue. I'll need this in case I want to show that you are involved in some critical thinking as a data analyst. You are a problem solver. So let me put that one as a pick 2. Okay, now going back to my Excel, you see what I'm going to do now. So I need another one. Sorry, it's very important. I need another one, data. Click on image. Let me use this data icon. So I need this. Let me just take, this is the global symbol for representing data. So now go back to my Excel. Now those icons, so I want to add the data icon here and I'm going to link it that once I click on it, it will target this sheet. I don't want to manually to be coming here because I can have another sheet. So maybe this sheet, I can have it as my report. So instead of me, because there's a number of sheets you will have here now, they will be wrapping inside. So you have to be scrolling before you can see the sheet you want to travel to. So as a professional, you create a button or buttons that can target each of these sheets. You don't have to manually be switching from one to another. That is what I'm trying to do here. So now I will bring in that data icon to target this sheet. So I'll go to Insert. I'll select under Illustration. I'll go to Pictures. So remember that we save those pictures in a folder on desktop. So go to your analysis icon, then call this icon. So we have it here. Format it, click here, then just give it this type, reduce it, then put it here. So this is going to represent my data icon. So let me also go back and bring in the home. So I will just do only 2, just to show us how to link one sheet to another in a cell. Very important when you are working with dashboard. So I can click here and also make it this if I want. So I also put the icon here. Now to connect this, you click on this, you right click on it and select what? Link. So once you click on link, it will output this dialog box. You go to this option, place in this document. All the list of sheets you have here will be listed here. So this icon is meant to target my data sheet. So I ought to have named this as data. So this is the name right now. I'll click on it and then select OK. So I've linked that sheet. Now let's particularize it. If I click here now, it's as if I'm browsing. Now, if I click here now, automatically, it takes me from this sheet to this sheet. So next time I am here in my dashboard and I want to target one of my reports. So instead of me wasting my boss time scrolling from one sheet to another, I will have created a button that will target that report. So if once the person mentioned the name of the report, I know the button that I must have created to target it. So let me also link this the second time now. Right click on it, then go to link. Because we just visited there now, it will no longer display on this. So, but in case it displays here, make sure this one is another file, not what you have within the sheet. So you click here. So this one will target our home, which is this particular page that we are now, which is our dashboard. So I will link it to the dashboard and click. Now, by the time you click here and it targets here, you are expected to also create another button. After this, we'll go ahead with the system. You create another button here. Because each of the sheets, there should be a button that will always take you back to your dashboard so that from there you can, target another sheet. So what I'm going to do, I will just insert that home icon in each of the sheets. Then make sure that you make it very small. Don't place it where you have your information. Take it off from there. Then here, right click on it, do the same linking. Then you are targeting dashboard. So which means that from here, if I click here, it takes me to the dashboard. Then if I click here, it brings me here. And if I want to go back, I just locate that icon and then click. So you now have that movement flexibility now. So that is part of what you need to know whenever you are creating dynamic dashboard. Now let's go into the main business. The main business is that we want a system. Once I pick a name, once I pick an employee's name, it will fetch other information in the same row. If you look at the thing I gave you, the same row. Once I pick Vera, it will call out Vero what? Employee ID, which is this. It will call out Vero state. It will call out Vero sales. It will call out Vero department. It will call out Vero status down to the last column. That was what I explained here. The VLOOKUP function searches for a value in the first column of a table and return a value in the same row, Good. So I hope that is well understood now. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take all this heading. I don't need the serial number, so I can clean it up. I don't need it. So at this point, I can right click. I can click on this column, select the A, then go to delete. So this is part of data cleaning now. And then I remove this. I don't need it. Now, I'll take the headers. All the headers, I will copy them to my dashboard. And to automatically select all the headers, like I've showed us before, select the first header, then hold down the control button and the shift, then hit the right arrow button, then press Ctrl C to copy, and then go to your dashboard, then select one of the cell, Ctrl V to paste. The reason why I migrated or I duplicated the header here or copy the header here, because I'm going to use this header to build the system. So I will now I will now formulate my design with the headers. So I'll take this one. In the first place, I want to clear the format that came with the headers. This background color, I don't need it. So that is another data cleaning concept now. So how am I going to clean them? I'm not going to be selecting them one after the other and come here and select what? This. No, that is not professional. Just select all of them, then come to this command here, clear here. Once, remember that you must have selected what? Home. Then click on clear, then select clear format. Once I click here, it automatically what? Remove all the format. That is part of data cleaning. I hope Mr. Jolly is following. Now, I will now begin to pick the headers. I'm defining my application because this is just like I am building an application in a cell. So I'm arranging them. I am leaving one cell interval. The idea is that this is where the name will display. This is where the ID will display. So I can either use here to display the value or I use this. So that is why I'm leaving that one cell space. So depend on you. So make sure that you are having a good design. So I will just want to have 3 columns. So I'll take the next one here. So I'm leaving this also in case I want to display the value here. So I'm following the alignment. So what I am building right now is the user interface of the application. This is an app that I am building that will help the organization to always analyze on their own. They don't have to be writing this function. So on their own, once I have developed the app, I will just show them how to use the app, just like the way somebody created OP app, and just show you how to use the OP, not showing you the coding interface. That is what I'm doing here. And I'm mindful of the arrangement of the column. So as we proceed, you know the reason why you have to follow the order. Don't arrange this one before this. You will get to know the reason. Let me take this out from here. I'm selecting everything. Okay. So every programmer will take time to build the user interface of an app, which we call the UI, UX you are hearing today, user interface and user experience. So I want to give my user good experience. Whenever they are using this app, they should be enjoying the environment. That is what I'm doing here. So let me increase this. Now, I want all these headers to have a unique style. So what I'm going to do, in a cell, for you to select only this header without involving all this middle space, you select it, hold down the control button, not shift, then select only the headers that I'm selecting now, only the headers, only the headers. Remember, we want to give users good experience. So what we are doing now is the application user interface. That is what we are designing before the main function that will make it to run. Then after this, then I will go to my home, Then click on this, then choose a particular color. So make sure that the colors you are using, they are attractive color. They are color that are combining other color. Look at other color I've used for the dashboard, red color and the black color. So I need to be mindful of those color. So I wouldn't want to choose a color that will work against those color. So which colors can I use? Okay, let me stay on this. Then I will change the text color from here. Since I'm no longer using that, text color should be white. And then I could just enhance the bold a little. So I have formatted that. So the next thing I'm going to do, all these spaces here, where I'm going to display the values, I want them to be formatted differently. So what I'm going to do, I will select them also. I will select all these spaces, hold down the control button, select only those spaces where you plan to output your values. Then the same thing, go to your field. Then I would like to use different color. Let me use this color. And then the text color will also be white. So I'll program everything that you are saving. So the next thing I'm going to do is to validate. Remember that this is where my lookup value is. So what it means is that the criteria for calling other information will be here. And the criteria will be the employee's name. And the employee's name, I don't want you to be typing it because you can make mistake in your spelling and end up not fetching that employee's information. So to help them so that they don't have to go through typing, I will now do what we call data validation, which means that I am locking off this cell. I am restricting them from typing inside this cell. And if I am restricting them, then I must provide those information that they will have typed there. So a way of providing them, I will create a drop down that they will click and then they will see the list of all the names that are in the payroll. So to do that, so I will click here. This is where I want to validate. Then go to my data tab. From my data tab, I will go to data validation. So just click on it. Then it will bring out this text box or dialog box. So from here, you can program an error message. If, for example, now, but that is not what I am looking at right now, but just to explain in case you want to use this for that scenario. So the input is just like the title and the message. Then if the person tried to put something that is not meant to be in that cell, then there will be an error message like warning, you are not allowed to type in here. So if I want to put that, then I can just say what? Warning. That is not part of what I'm doing here. Then warning, it will now be what? Stop. So you will see stop, and then you will see this message. So maybe the title can just be what? MSN. And then after that, that is just to program that. Then, but what I need for this particular system I'm building, I don't need all these things. So I'll just go straight to this settings. Under validation criteria, where you have allowed, don't allow any value. Restrict it to what? List. Why? Because the names of your employees, they are in a list, vertically what? Listed in your payroll. So I will switch to what? If you want to validate with dates, maybe you want to use a particular date to select a particular record, then you use date. You want to use time. You want to use maybe the length, a text that does not exceed certain number of letters, or with decimal number, or with whole number, or any. But in this case, I'm using what? List. So once I have picked that list, I'll now come to the source. So this source is asking me, where is the value that will be outputted here? So I'll click on this icon to travel to my data set. So I will now switch from my dashboard to my staff data set. And then reference all the name of the employees by selecting the first one and selecting all as usual. Then you click on this icon to return. So here you have automatically connected to where the values are coming from. Then all you need to do is just to click OK here. So the moment I click OK, you can see what happened here. So I now have all the name. So I have actually limited or restricted whoever is going to be managing this app to these names. So once you click on the name, but in case by tomorrow they enter more employees, how will those people be captured in your system, in your dashboard? Now, what you will have done that time that I selected all the name, where I did something like this, you will have still pressed it so that to select everything, so that by tomorrow, if they employ another staff and they supply its information, it will update in your system. So what I have done here now is I have validated this cell, and this cell is going to be my lookup value, which means that what? Once a name is picked here, that name is what the VLOOKUP will not take. The VLOOKUP will take this value and travel to this place and fetch for you all the information in the same row pertaining to that value. That is what we are trying to establish here. So this validation is optional. You can decide to leave it empty that they should be typing. But the reason why I don't want that way because they might make a mistake in writing. Somebody may want to type Vero and type what? Vera. And then you will keep having error without knowing that the error is from the spelling. That is why you are to validate them. So that you tell the person that is married that what all you need, once you want to pay salary, just pick the person's name here. Then to produce the ID of the person, the state the person is from, the gender, the department, the status, and then if there are other calculations you want to do, maybe you want to do a summation of the tax plus this, so you must have done that by adding the calculation here. So as soon as all the information are provided, then the details will be provided. But here, the net salary is already provided. Supposing it's not there, what is going to be the net salary? So the net salary will be the subtraction of the liability from all the assets. That is what will be the net, but that has been calculated in the data set and represented with net salary. So that is why I'm not doing any calculation. So now I will now go for the VLOOKUP, which is the last part of this system now. So the VLOOKUP, like we stated, is a searcher, is to help us to go and be searching, but it must look up to a particular criteria. So there must be a navigator, what it uses to go and fetch other information, which is what we have provided here. So this is where I am going to activate my VLOOKUP. That is, I am no longer looking for this. I have gotten this. So VLOOKUP, you are going to call out Emeka. We want you to go to the data set using this name, Emeka, to fetch out Emeka ID. So I will write my equals to there. I will type VLOOKUP. Once you type VLOOKUP, or type VL, it will bring it out. Double click on it. Then you see the syntax that I just explained over there. So from here, lookup value is this argument. Just select here. So you have just supplied what? Lookup value. Which means that what? This function, this is what determines the record you fetch from here. That is the simple meaning of that lookup value. Then comma, table array. Okay, so by the time I take Emeka to this data, tell me the boundary from where to where I can search for information about Emeka. That is the table array, like I've explained before. So table array, you switch back to the data set and select everything, including this information that you use as your lookup value, down to net. You highlight everything horizontally, then vertically. So this is just like you are setting a boundary. So like I said before, in case of future entry, so still press it again so that you capture everything. So you are saying that what? Any value that will be defined within this area, you have the privilege of searching it. So you have just set a boundary for the command to search from. Now you put a comma because you have defined table array. Now, you don't switch back to your dashboard. If you switch back to your dashboard, you have changed the configuration. It's going to output error. So every other thing should be completed here. All you need to do is just be following your function here. Now, the moment you add your comma, you can see that your table array and lookup value, they are no longer active because you have executed them. Now, the focus has shifted to what? Column index. Now, column index is you narrowing the searching to a particular column. So you are like assisting the function now. Okay, you know, table array, you have defined a whole boundary. Now, it's going to be difficult for the function to be searching from one column to another within that area that you highlighted. So you want to assist the function to focus the searching on a particular column. And how do you calculate that column? That was the reason why we arranged those header in that order. Now let me show you what we call let me not use the word cardinality. It might be too advanced for this level. What we call the range or the distance. So you are going to do a calculation here. The calculation here is this. It's very simple. You take this employee's name, which you use as your lookup value, as the criteria for the function to fetch any value from this data set now. As 1, you calculate as 1. That is what? That is the origin where the counting is starting from. You always count it as 1. Now, if you count it as 1, that means what we are fetching right now is the ID from where we wrote that function in our dashboard. I don't want to go back there so that not change the configuration. So if you count here as 1, then here is 2. So my column index is 2, which means that what? VLOOKUP, the distance from the lookup value and the value you are expected to call is 2. Meaning that you took this one as 1, and then you counted here 2. So by the time I get to state, it's going to be what? 3. By the time I get to what? Sales, it's going to be what? 4. By the time I get to department, it's going to be 5. By the time I get to status, it's going to be 6. By the time I get to grade, it's going to be 7, and so on. That was the reason why I've arranged my header, because if I did not follow that order, therefore each time I am writing this lookup function, I have to be coming here to check the order. So now I will type what? 2. So follow your function here. So once you type 2, you put a comma. So once you put a comma, it will now ask for that what? Lookup, that is range lookup, the one that was in a square bracket, which states what? If the command could not find the value you are searching for, what will be displayed to you that will inform you that the function could not fetch the required value. So if you put 0, that is what? Exact match. If you put 1, that is false. So in this case, we just put what? 0. That is what? It should display the exact match, the exact value. So like what we did in the case of if function, I can bring in my quotation and say, okay, I'm bringing what should be displayed by myself. So what I want to put there is what? Not available. So, but I don't want to put that, so I will just put what? 0. After 0, I will just hit enter. What I hit enter now, it has called the ID. If you want to see how dynamic, what make a dashboard dynamic is that what? Value changes per time. Now let's check whether it's dynamic. Let's change this employee's name. You can see that what is dynamic. So in other words, what the system is not looking up to this, whatever name that is found here, it will take that name and come to the data set, then fetch the ID. Now, right now, is only fetching the what? The employee ID, because you have not written that same function here. You have not written that same function here. You have not written that same function here and also define their column index. So now what you are going to do as an expert, don't waste your time writing that long function. Just copy this one that you have written. Select it like this, then highlight it here from the formula bar. Right click and select copy. Now, after you have copied, press enter to allow you to execute the last one. Then you can now proceed to other places and begin to paste. Just be pasting. It will keep displaying the same value, but never mind, we will resolve it in a moment. So what I'm doing now is to save me from rewriting that function. What I'm going to be doing here in order to call the right value is just to be changing the column index number so that we'll be fetching value from different column instead of fetching the same fetching from the same column like we are having right now, fetching the same ID. I hope Mr. Jolly should join back before I finish pasting. Okay, so let's give him some minutes. So while we are waiting for him, hope you are following. Okay, so I was already pasting that before you left. So what I did, I've completed the pasting. Now, if I change any name here now, let's see what happened. You can see the way it's changing across all the fields. So once you want to fetch any particular employee payment detail, you just call the name and then it fetches out the record. But right now it's fetching the same information. Why? Because we pasted this column index across all the field. So what I'm going to do is that I'm not editing this. I will just shift to this, knowing that this is 2. This will be 3. So I will just come here and change only this place to 3. Then the same thing, change this to 4. So I'm following that order. The same thing, change this to 5. So just make sure that I take note of the numbering. As soon as you impute the right index number, it fetches the right value. So this should be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This should be 7. This should be 8. Now you can see that the date format is showing like numbers. So all you need to do is to highlight it and select format cell. Then from there, just select date and choose any of the format. So it will automatically update the right date format. Okay, so the last one was 8, so this will be 9. After this session, we are ending it now. This should be 10. This should be 11. This should be 12. This should be 13.
This should be 14. This should be 15. This should be 16. This should be 17. This should be 18. This should be 19. So just make sure you are entering the right index number. This should be 20. All right, so with this, now we can test the system properly now. So let's say we want to check for hope. Then you see these are all the information about hope. We want to search for Chika, the same thing. So you can see that you have been able to develop a dynamic dashboard that can answer multiple questions, because if not for this system, for each employee's detail, you are supposed to be duplicating this. For each time you are asked to fetch any employee detail, you are to create this again. Then for each time you are asked to fetch another employee detail. So for each employee, now we now have, just like we have about 150 employees here, it means that for you to be able to view all the 150 employees, you will have created this 150 times. So you need to create different payslip for each of them. So instead of me duplicating this model, so this system is now answering all the questions. Now, in summary, to end this, it is not only applicable for salary payroll. In fact, one of the best data sets you can apply this system, this VLOOKUP, or this kind of dashboard, is your sales inventory, where you have maybe profits recorded across maybe different locations. So you can validate your state such that once you pick the state, it fetches out what maybe all the information about that state. Or even your customer, once you pick a customer name, it fetches out all the information about that customer transaction, which can act as receipt. So at the end of the day, you are using a system like this to generate receipt for each of the customer. So this is where we end this session. So out of all the lookup function that we plan to cover, we have only covered what? VLOOKUP. And then in our next class, we continue with what? HLOOKUP. And then we will finalize it with what? SLOOKUP. So once we are done with this set of lookup function, then we can now look at pivot table analysis, which shall be the last topic in Excel. So at the end of the day, you are expected to come up with a project, at least with all that you must have learned with Excel. Miss Gloria, I don't know if you are still here. Okay, so your assignment is for you to use this same data set and produce something like this. I know I've sent you that data set. Or you can use any other data set, provided you know how to, identify your validation and your other information. So that is the assignment on this. And then another assignment on that if statement that we started with. So make sure you do all the assignment. We'll see you in the next class.